Hey, Johnny Ballgame here. What's going on? You're not going to hire a basketball coach to fix your house up. You're not going to hire a gardener to operate on your hands. So why would you hire anybody but a solid professional when it comes to audio and visual production? You wouldn't. You're going to hire Brent Clapp. Brent Clapp Productions has a gorgeous studio, 4th Street in downtown LeGrand. I sign off on this 1,000%. I broadcast my show here every day. It's not some guy in the back room, although he once was. Brent has a qualified track record and a proven history in this business. Whatever production needs you may have are taken care of by pros, professionals. And not to mention, they're a Travel Oregon award-winning company. Yeah, stuff that they've produced has went on to win big-time media awards throughout the state. You don't have to go to the other side of the state. You don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to call a basketball coach. No. So listen to Ballgame. Brent Clapp Productions. It's where you need to be. Ha 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 ha! Hey, Johnny Ballgame here. What's going on? You're not going to hire a basketball coach to fix your house up. You're not going to hire a gardener to operate on your hands. So why would you hire anybody but a solid professional when it comes to audio and visual production? You wouldn't. You're going to hire Brent Clapp. Brent Clapp Productions has a gorgeous studio, 4th Street in downtown LeGrand. I sign off on this 1,000%. I broadcast my show here every day. It's not some guy in the back room, although he once was. Brent has a qualified track record and a proven history in this business. Whatever production needs you may have are taken care of by pros, professionals. And not to mention, they're a Travel Oregon award-winning company. Yeah, stuff that they've produced has went on to win big-time media awards throughout the state. You don't have to go to the other side of the state. You don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to call a basketball coach. No. So listen to Ballgame. Brent Clapp Productions. It's where you need to be. Ha 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 ha.
Hey, EO Live, thanks for joining us today for this CHD Covid update. These happen every couple weeks, and always want to be sure and mention our sponsors, Grand Round Hospital and EONI. And like always, Carrie is jumping in here with me. How you doing, Carrie?
Hey there, I'm doing pretty good. It's always nice to get a chance to come and chat about COVID-19 and all that's going on with that. So really grateful to have the opportunity.
You haven't talked about it at all, have you?
No, I've had a huge break. Yeah, no, it's definitely still the bulk of what I am working on. It's definitely, the activity hasn't changed. It seems like, things continue to come up. There are always, evolving situations that we are working through. And I know over the last few months, it's definitely been school reopening. And I know we have EOU students returning to campus. And so, just really supporting and working with entities in our community that are trying to get back to some sense of normalcy while adapting and doing it in a way that's safe for the people that they're serving and their employees. So yeah, definitely, there's always something new to be working on.
Yeah, and what is, I mean, kind of for those people that, what is the status? Is EOU back in session? So right now the public schools locally are not, but I don't know, help for those that are not in touch, help us understand.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about what's going on with education. So obviously our K through 12 schools have been working toward resuming educational services either online or in person. So our rural school districts have been back in person. So they are serving students on site, and of course have spent lots of time and effort implementing educational services in a way that mitigates the risk of COVID-19. So as you mentioned, though, not all of our schools are back in person. I know that LeGrand School District has not implemented in-person instruction in general. I think that they're working on some limited in-person instruction. And again, the Oregon Health Authority has created a lot of different exceptions for allowing students to return to in-person learning. And I know that the local school districts have all been working really hard to implement those. And of course, the goal is to have students be in classrooms learning. That's the best way for them to learn. And so everybody's trying to get to a point where the activity for COVID-19 is low enough that that's feasible, and being able to implement the mitigations that allow them to be as safe as possible in those settings, both the students and the employees. And I know, I have to be honest, I don't know the exact timeline for when EOU is resuming classes, but I do know that they've started to have students come back, and they've started to have students, here on campus, and also engaging in online learning. And again, I don't want to speak on their behalf, and I just went and looked on their website to try and get some sense of it. I'm not exactly sure what day classes start, but I do know that they are trying to resume classes. So lots going on in that arena. And again, I think everybody's been working so hard to adapt to the fact that we have COVID-19, and that we're trying to continue going about our normal lives, but mitigating the risk by, taking the precautions that we've been talking about for months now.
Yeah. And I've seen that too. And I did a video for EOU that they presented last week to the faculty, and it was mostly virtual. So I know that they're really struggling. Everybody's kind of in the same place. How do we get back to any kind of normalcy with, putting the standards in place so that we're safe, and so on and so forth. So last week we had some special guests come on with us with RAP services, and that was particularly around language access. And it was really cool to have those folks with us. For those people, again, that don't know what RAP is, I don't know, maybe talk to us about that and give us a little bit of an update there.
Yeah, sure. I know we've talked quite a few times about wraparound services, but I think it's really important to continue reminding people about it, because the reality is that you don't necessarily pay that great of attention until you actually need something. I know that happens for me. Like, I'll be listening to something and I'll be like, oh, that's not really relevant to me today. But come to find out a week or two from now, it is relevant for me. And so I think it's really good to remind our community members of the wraparound services that are available. So as folks know, if you are diagnosed or you test positive for COVID-19, we will ask you to isolate for a certain period of time. If you're a close contact to a confirmed case, we will ask you to quarantine for a certain period of time. And to be effective in doing that, the idea is that you are staying away from other people. That means that you're staying home, you're not going out, you're not going to work, you're not going to the grocery store, you're really isolating or quarantining. And so we recognize that for some people in our community, the ability to do that without assistance may be really hard. I know it might be very hard for people to go get groceries if they can't go get groceries, right? They might not have somebody that can go do that for them. So the idea is that the wraparound supports are available to help people get their basic needs met during that isolation and quarantine period. So we can get people medications, we can get them their groceries, but then the other things that we've talked about, which are also very necessary for some people, are assistance with maybe financial needs. Maybe they're not able to pay their rent due to the fact that they aren't able to go to work for a few weeks. They need assistance with their energy bills. And so the wraparound services, it's a large group of community-based organizations that serve Union County that have come together, and they're available to provide assistance to people when they need it. So they will connect them with the primary goal is to utilize services and resources that already exist in the community. So, for example, Northeast Oregon Network, they're one of the partners that we're working closely with. They have for quite some time provided assistance for people that need to get signed up for health insurance. If somebody needs health insurance during this time, Neon is available to do that for them. And I want to also point out that many of these things can be provided regardless of whether or not somebody is being asked to isolate or quarantine. So if any members of our community have a need, regardless of their COVID-19 status, regardless of whether or not they're a contact, I still encourage them to reach out to these partners because they can help, in many cases, help anybody that has these needs. Community Connection is another vital partner in our community. They do help, with assistance for rental assistance, energy assistance. I know their resources are limited, but again, I think if people have a need, it doesn't hurt to reach out and help see if they can get you some assistance to help you get through that time. There's a lot of food resources in the community that the wraparound coordinator can help people get connected with. And then again, as we highlighted the last time we talked, there are lots of different languages available. So we have a really diverse community. We have folks in our community that speak a lot of different languages. And so we want to make sure, again, that people are able to be successful in isolating and quarantining, because this is our primary method of containing and stopping the spread of COVID-19.
And I do have the information for WRAP. It's up on below us on the stream. And so, and like we talked last week, sometimes if people are a little hesitant or, certainly if you have a friend who is in need, you can see that, then you could reach out to this number or this email also. And perhaps those services would initiate a call or something and help that way too.
Yeah, I think if you have a need, that I would encourage anybody to just go ahead and reach out to that number. And if there's a way to help, they will be able to figure it out. And I think that's the objective. We decided for our county, it'd be really nice to have one primary point of contact that was really the holder of the information to get out to the community. And, I was thinking about this before we came on today. I hate asking for help. Right. I do not. I really want to be self-sufficient. I'm really independent. I really want to figure out how to do things on my own. And the reality is that most of the time I can manage to get things that I need done. Most of the time I can manage to get my needs met independently. But if I were asked to quarantine or isolate, I might need some help. And I think it's okay to ask for help in this situation. I think that it's okay to ask for help given the environment that we're living in now, that there have been so many changes for many of us that the community-based organizations, they're really waiting and want to help people. So I just really would encourage folks to take advantage of it, because it's a really valuable resource that is available to our community.
Good. Well, thank you. So let's switch gears for just a minute. And so let's talk about having kids at home, getting them prepared to go back to school. And you and I talked a little bit about beforehand about you have kids right now that are doing online learning. Can talk a little bit about that challenge, because I can't imagine, what's that like, wrangling them in front of the screen every day? And I don't know, maybe give us a synopsis a little bit as a parent, how that's going.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about it. I think it's relevant. We all have different experiences, but I know a lot of parents out there these days are kind of facing something they never imagined that they would face before. I mean, I don't think any of us that are parents ever imagined. I mean, I know I didn't ever imagine that my kids would be starting the school year off online or transitioning to online learning. And so I know some people do online learning, but I think a lot of us do have kids that go to school in person, and it's definitely been a transition. And I know that it's a transition for our school staff and our teachers as well. I think sometimes, they definitely, when they went to get their degrees in education, I don't imagine that most of them envisioned this. Like they went to be trained to be teachers in classrooms. And so it's a huge transition for everybody. And, I think one of the things that I, as a parent, continue to be surprised about is how adaptable children are. And I think that for the most part, we see them adapting, we see them changing, we see them, shifting and doing what needs to happen given the environment that we're living in right now. And so I've been pleasantly surprised at how easy the transition to online learning has been. And I haven't talked to other parents. I'm sure there are many, many challenges. I know that for families that have younger children, it might be really challenging for those younger kids to sit in front of a computer for 4 hours a day. I can imagine that would be really challenging. And I think, obviously, I'm sure most people are really wanting to figure out a way to get students back in the classroom, because I think it's probably I don't know, a better environment for learning than sitting at a computer all day long and not being able to have the teacher really be there to notice or be able to look over your shoulder and see the work that you're doing. But our teachers have done an amazing job of adapting. And I think that, again, I feel like children are really resilient, and I think everybody is making the best of the situation that we've been given. And I just keep reminding myself it's not going to be like this forever.
That's right. Yeah. So talk a little bit about kids and masks. Schools that are starting, that are in session, masks are a part of that routine that they're using. How have your kids adapted to wearing masks? And for those parents that need to prepare kids to go back to in-person learning, and that's going to be a part, you have some things that maybe they can do to help with their kids?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to people that have a lot of concern about their children wearing masks all day long, and I definitely get it. I've been, here and there working in the office where I have to wear a mask, and it's definitely not what I'm used to. It's definitely something different. It definitely takes a bit of time to get used to. And I think I've shared with you before, the more that I wear the mask, the more I get used to it. I don't really notice that I have it on. It becomes a part of my normal routine. And I know personally, I've tried to choose masks that I really like the fabric on, or, things that I feel like, I don't know, I just try and take the situation and make the best of it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, with kids, we're really setting examples for them. And I know one thing that, we've talked about in our family is how important it is to wear a mask to keep each other safe and to keep our community safe. And so really trying to come at it as a point of, serving other people and using it as an opportunity for them to take care of the people around them is definitely something that I've done. But, it's honestly really just becomes a normal part of our routine. If we're going into the grocery store, a mask is required, so we put it on. And, for the most part, I think my kids have definitely been able to adapt. I think there have been a couple of learnings along the way for myself and them, and it's actually been the same for me as it's been for them. If I don't have a mask that fits me well, wearing a mask is kind of a pain. And so I feel like finding one that fits well makes all the difference. And once I found masks that fit well, and, again, taking into account that if I'm going to be talking or not talking, like those things influence how it fits. And so, really just finding something that works for me. And it was the same with the kids. So I think for parents out there that are looking at having their students be in or students going back to school or their children being in situations where they need to wear a mask. I think finding one that fits them well, finding one that's a color that they like or has a pattern or design on them that they, is appealing to them, I think will make it easier for them to make that adaptation. And then I think just practicing too at home so they can get used to it, practicing taking it on and off, telling them why they probably shouldn't be touching it, why it needs to stay over their nose. I mean, I find kids to be pretty smart. And so I really just talk to them with the facts and give them the information and, let them know that why we're doing this. I'm really honest with them about it. So I think that, I think those are kind of all the things that will help parents make this transition and help students make this transition back to the school environment where they'll be wearing a mask more often.
Right. And where they'll be required to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, kids are going to do what parents model. And if parents are diligent about being compliant when they go into a grocery store or whatever the case might be, then, the kids will have a little bit more understanding. They're not going to want to do something that the parents never do. The reality is that public in-person learning is going to require kids wearing masks. And so all of those are really good things. And it's kind of funny because I'm in a private office space. Most of us can stay within the 6-foot buffer of each other. And so, we do not wear masks all the time because it's not required and it's not necessary for our space. But my wife works up at the hospital and that's a part of their routine. And she'll often get in the car and forget that she even has it on. So it is a part of the routine that happens after a while. So,
yeah.
So let's talk about there's some new paid leave that's available for folks. Tell us what that is. What's that program? Where did it come from? And how can you see it being beneficial for us locally here?
Yeah, so I have to be honest, I haven't become an expert on this yet because it just came to my attention yesterday, but I did want to make that our community was aware of this. And I think it kind of ties into some of those wraparound supports that we were talking about in the sense that this will help people who are asked to quarantine or isolate due to COVID-19. So if you work in Oregon and you need to isolate or quarantine due to COVID-19 exposure, but you don't have paid sick leave, there's a program that's called the COVID-19 Temporary Paid Leave Program. That we receive funding, the state of Oregon received funding from the federal government to help individuals that qualify. So it looks like people who qualify could receive a $120 per day payment for up to 10 working days for the time that they're being asked to quarantine. And so it's really simple, actually. I went to check out the link. There's a link, and I think it's going to be put up on your page, I hope. If not, I'll make sure that it gets up there because it's a long link, and I'm not going to read it out loud. But basically, you go on there, and it outlines the eligibility criteria, and there's actually a quiz that you can take. And so you can just go on there, walk through the quiz, and see if you're eligible. So I really wanted to make sure that individuals in our community know that that's available. I know that it probably isn't going to cover all of their wages necessarily, but anything to help folks that don't have sick time be able to isolate and quarantine, because I know that is certainly a concern for lots of folks in our community. So really wanted to make sure that people had information about that new resource that we just learned about yesterday.
So then So let's say perhaps you're self-employed. I don't know if it applies to self-employed people or not. But anyhow, the bottom line is it's for people who do not have sick leave available, paid sick leave available for them. And so Good. That's what an excellent resource for people to be able to take advantage of. And that link is in the comments. Thank you, George Thompson, for working in the background to make all that happen. So, well, good. Well, anything else, Carrie, that you can think of that we need to mention today?
No, I don't think I have anything else to mention. I've been reflecting a lot on the fact that it's a little cooler today. I went out last night and it was definitely darker earlier. I'm starting to notice the days getting shorter, and that means that we're going to start spending more time inside. We're probably going to start seeing other viruses circulating that maybe haven't been as common during the summer months. And so, I think I just, really encourage people to continue to stay vigilant. I know I say that every time that I'm on here, but I do think about the transition to us being inside a little bit more, being in closer quarters with each other, being in close contact. And it makes me, we're not going to know what's going to happen until it happens. So, I have no crystal ball. I will never claim to have a crystal ball, but it does definitely make me wonder if we will see an increase in cases as we move into this next season. And so just really encouraging people to continue to exercise the precautions that we've been talking about all along. Staying home if you're sick, really staying away from other people if you're sick. The hand washing will continue to be important forever. And, that 6 feet of distance, really trying to, keep your distance from other people, wear your face coverings, and really just, again, keep each other safe and take care of each other like I know we really value here in Union County.
And I think that is particularly the case for the at-risk population. Now that we've have 6 months or 9 months of this, I don't think it's been quite 9 months, but it seems that way. Now that we have enough deaths that we can look at, there certainly is, a trend that is associated with at-risk folks. We put a lot of emphasis on schools and opening them up safe, and colleges, and I think all of that's important. But the actual risk to that younger age group is pretty minuscule compared to the faculty and so on and so forth. So then if we apply that to our families, then if we're getting together at Thanksgiving time, it's still important to be diligent with our grandpas and grandmas and those older folks that are at risk, because there's no doubt that there is a trend there, so.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a good reminder. I every day get an email from the Oregon Health Authority that tells me how many cases of COVID-19 there are being reported each day. And the last few weeks I get that email and I look at that first number, which is the number of cases, and I feel a little bit of relief because it's been down. And then I look at the next number, which is the number of deaths, and those have continued for the most part to stay pretty consistent. And so I think, again, going back to the beginning of all of this, we're really trying to prevent the deaths that COVID-19 is contributing to. And I think that the people that are at risk are people that, are older adults or have underlying medical conditions that could cause them, that the COVID-19 could exacerbate and cause them to have a serious or severe outcome. And I think the other thing that I think about is that we don't know enough about the long-term impacts to a person's health that COVID-19 might have. And so I think until we know more about the long-term health consequences of COVID-19, that it, again, just really behooves us to try and minimize the spread and reduce the number of individuals that do get the virus.
Yes, and we still are in, even though things are better, just a reminder for folks. So let's say that there's a church that's meeting together, and with those restrictions, they're meeting together. If one person comes who attended that service comes down with COVID, then that whole contact tracing thing kicks in. And I mean, it still could be incredibly disturbing to a school or a church or any kind of organization that's trying to reassemble or get back to some kind of life. So I don't know, that's still out there. And those requirements, when there is a case, those requirements are going to kick in, and everybody's going to have to be interviewed and figured out, who did you talk to? Who were you within 6 feet of for longer than 15 minutes? So all of that business. So,
yeah.
All righty. Well, Carrie, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time, and we'll check in with you in a couple weeks from now. So
sounds good.
Thanks. And thank you, EO Live TV, for joining us today. Appreciate CHD and all the things that they do to keep us healthy and keep us giving us information. And again, our sponsors, Grand Ronde Hospital and EO and I always appreciate what you do to make these programmings happen.